Welcome to another medieval modern music mashup. On behalf of Dr. MRO, I am your reader, Dr. Leon, here to give you the rundown on today's mashup. Aloe Black's Wake Me Up versus the 14th century anonymous Middle English poem entitled Pearl. As always, before we begin, let's start with a short intro of both text and artist, and then jump right in. The Pearl poem is held in the Cotton Nero AX manuscript in the British Library, along with three other alliterative poems, Cleanness, Patience, and the notorious Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. The 1,212-line long poem Pearl is an allegory set in the dream vision motif about redemption and the afterlife. The poem begins with a father mourning his lost pearl. He falls asleep and encounters a beautiful woman who takes him on a journey. He struggles to cross a stream, suddenly wakes up, and contemplates what he's just dreamt. One interpretation of the poem is that he realizes that the Queen of Heaven he's encountered in his dream vision is his grown daughter in paradise. Wake Me Up is a song written and performed by singer and rapper Aloe Black, along with guitarist Mike Einziger of Incubus fame. Aloe Black did a collaborative version of his original song with Swedish DJ and dance remixer Avicii, which is the song most commonly recognized. We'll be mixing both versions in this mashup. According to Black, the song was written when, quote, he suddenly came to the realization that the life he was living was too good for him to believe, end quote. Similarly, the dreamer in Pearl is envisaging a life too good to be true in his dreamlike state. In the end, both song and poem deal heavily with the passage of time, longing, despair, and loving connections. Let's dive right into today's mashup. The Middle English poem Pearl and the Avicii song Wake Me Up both explore the idea of a narrator's search for a dreamlike paradise, as well as the presence of death and separation as obstacles. The song begins,
feeling my way through the darkness, guided by a beating heart. I can't tell where the journey will end, but I know where to start.
In both works, the protagonist is trying to reach some kind of understanding or resolution about the future, as temporality plays an important part in both pieces. In Black's song, he talks about how he will be remembered when he dies and what it means to truly live life while you can. Feeling my way through the darkness, guided by a beating heart, I can't tell where the journey will end, but I know where to start. The poem Pearl also explores these themes as its narrator travels through an otherworldly garden filled with precious gems and heavenly light in search of his lost daughter who died. Like the narrator in Wake Me Up, Pearl begins with the dreamer falling asleep or being in a dreamlike state and being guided by a beating heart. In the words of the narrator in lines 127 to 136, at each unsullied sight I sighted, with awe my heart assuaged, for all whom fortune's fickle fancies call, whether solace sent or sorrow sore, whether granted greatest bliss or gall, receive their measure more and more. More mirth was mixed amidst that scene than I could properly portray, nor could an earthy heart sustain a fraction of that fiery joy. One striking difference between the upbeat lyrics of Wake Me Up and the original video is that the video takes us on a journey of an undocumented migrant worker and her family. As she closes her eyes, she's taken back to a time that contrasts the uplifting lyrics of enjoying the moment or even the lush scenes of the medieval poem. This desolate, dry land is where her family travels to another place in the hope of better opportunities. In short, they are looking for a new paradise. The visuals evoked in the Middle English poem are different from the onset, as the narrator describes the beauty of this heavenly locale, but both poem and Black's video explore themes of loss, grief, nostalgia, and hope for a better future. In Pearl, the narrator laments the loss of his daughter, symbolized by a pearl. He's lost both his literal pearl and his figurative treasure, his little girl, Pearl. The narrator grieves the passing of innocence, as well as a lack of closure as to what happened to his child. In Wake Me Up, the longing in the video is juxtaposed with the cruel separations and brutal realities of migrant families, a story often erased from the public's gaze. Both pieces are compelling in their exploration of loss, and both make use of vivid imagery to evoke the longing of the narrator for a type of paradise. Time is an interesting concept in both texts as we learn how this young girl has died in Pearl, and that when the grieving father meets her in heaven, she's a young woman. In lines 161 to 168, the father describes, And seated below that citadel was a child, a maid of noble blood. She wore all white, and very well I recognized this marvelous maid. Like glints of gold in wood inlaid, so shone that fair one on the shore. I doted on her face, delayed, and the more I knew her, more and more. In Wake Me Up, we see the little girl who experiences separation from her father transform into a savior figure as well. As time passes, this young woman transforms to become a savior-like figure not only for her father, but others. Comparatively, the lyrical line, "Wish that I could stay forever this young,
not afraid to close my eyes,"
parallels Pearl's father's voice who claims, "Of which you're queen, though very young," line 475. There's a tension between aging, youth, and longing to remain in a place with loved ones. Both these young women have aged, but are still youthful. In these texts, they operate as saviors. It is through their agency that the fathers are able to feel free. At once the men are older and wiser, but long to remain in a somewhat youthful state with their girls. Like Pearl's father, the song says,
"Wish that I could stay forever this young, not afraid to close my eyes. Well, life's a game made for everyone, and love is the prize. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost."
Both speakers are lost, and whether it is self-discovery in Pearl or the father and daughter who desire to be reunited, the power is in the hands of their daughters. They are lost and alone, and through the presence of their transformed daughters, the men are able to see the light. Although the narrator is uncertain of what happened to Pearl when he wakes, he still hopes to reunite in the same way that the daughter in Wake Me Up continues her fight for migrants and asylum seekers. Both pieces are compelling in their exploration of themes of freedom, awakening, and finding one's path. In the end, love is the prize in both text and song, and just as the poem describes how, "Alas, I lost my pearl of old," the song closes with the repetition of, "I didn't know I was lost." Both text and song are a journey of self-discovery, and both represent anthems of lost relationships. Through a feminist reading, we can see how these men's strength and discovery is in the power of young women who can free them. There are lots of other connections between these two works, but this is just a short synopsis and comparative reading that can enrich our understanding of old works. Be sure to look out for MRO's next mashup, Madonna's Frozen versus the 10th century Old English poem, The Seafarer. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.